But right now, the Liberal government has committed to repealing the spanking law. They plan to repeal a section of the criminal code that protects parents and teachers who use spanking and other quote-unquote reasonable force against children. And joining us to talk about this is our friendly social worker, Gary Dierenfeld. He's also a parenting columnist for the Hamilton Spectator. The website is yoursocialworker.com. Gary, great to talk to you.
Good to be with you again.
Yeah, I love having you on the show.
Thank you.
So let's update, first of all, where we are at in terms of the spanking law.
Sure.
The Supreme Court of Canada upheld the law in 2004, ruling that physical force could be used by parents and school teachers on children between the ages of 2 and 12, although there wasn't as much leeway for the teachers. They could physically remove a child from a classroom, but could not use force as a form of corporal punishment. First of all, where are you with spanking as a form of discipline?
So I'm going to take myself out of the equation. I'm going to represent the social science literature research on this.
Okay.
And it says that really spanking is uninformed parenting. That spanking at any level can create the conditions, number one, that could lead to abusive behavior. And in some circumstances, spanking at any level can be construed as abusive. The social science literature also tells us that those children who are spanked, even what we may consider minimally, whatever the heck that is, they're at actually greater risk of depression, anxiety, and poorer behavior, if I'm not stuttering to say that, poorer behavior than kids who aren't spanked at all. So while on the one hand, for so many parents, spanking is a tool of behavior management, what they don't realize is that it oftentimes increases the very problem behavior they're seeking to resolve.
Do you ever, in your practice, get parents who say, well, you know, that's how I learned how to behave?
Yeah. You know what? That's a very common refrain. I also hear that from alcoholics. You know, my parents drank and they turned out okay. I did this and I turned out okay. And I sped down the highway at 140 and I never died. So there's a tendency for all of us to use our own personal experience and then extrapolate, so to speak, to everybody's experience. And what we learn is that kind of anecdotal information, it really doesn't tell us about what happens in terms of this experience for larger groups of persons.
Sorry, go ahead.
So if we look at thousands of children, and those thousands of children, those who were spanked versus those who weren't spanked, those who weren't spanked tend to be better behaved, longer, better, and also suffer less mental health problems.
For the parents who spank on a regular basis, do you think that they just can't be bothered to figure out other forms of discipline, or is it less work than other forms of discipline?
You know, that sounds so pejorative to the parents that we're talking about who use spanking. I don't want to shame or embarrass or put any parent down. And that's why I refer to it as more uninformed parents. Sometimes people just don't know the difference. It's kind of like driver education. If we teach our own kids how to drive the car, odds are they're going to pick up on our own poor driving habits than if we use a professional driving instructor. So same with parents. We tend to rely on our own experience and draw from that to parent our kids. But yet, if we were to get professional education on parenting, we'd all be taught so many other strategies for affecting appropriate behavior. And quite frankly, the degree to which we learn how to work with kids, we rarely have to, in a sense, punish anything because we can manage through redirection, through talking, through understanding their feelings, through giving alternatives, through just verbally explaining what the limit and the expectations are, and then praising, rewarding appropriate behavior. So as we learn and practice these other strategies, quite frankly, spanking becomes a moot point.
So, but what you're saying is that the majority of these parents who spank don't even realize there are other options.
Correct. They haven't been schooled. They haven't been taught. They haven't been educated or coached in these other strategies. And what we learn is that those parents who are educated, coached, taught these other strategies, and who adapt or adopt them, they actually fare very well, and their kids do better as well. I'm going to plug my book, Raising Kids Without Raising Cain. If your listeners go to my website, yoursocialworker.com, click on the link, I think it says links actually, you'll have access to that book to download for free. I'm not looking for anything from this, but it will provide listeners a very easy-to-read, downloadable book to learn all these other strategies. Those who adopt the strategies tend to have better, well-adjusted children.
Can you tell us what some of the strategies are that the book will go over?
Yeah, how to negotiate with your child. So sometimes we also talk about it as the illusion of alternatives. So it's not whether or not you're going to go to bed, but we can negotiate how you're going to go to bed. So we're not going to say to the child, do you want to go to bed? No, I don't want to go to bed. You have to go to bed. No, you can't go to right?
Yeah.
But rather, hey, you're going to go to bed. Would you like to brush your teeth first or put on your pajamas?
Yeah. Or do you want a bath before you go to bed, or do you just want to brush your teeth tonight?
There you go. And then there's things like, grandmother's rule, where dessert follows the meal. It doesn't precede the meal. It follows the meal. So, I have many parents who come to me and say, hey, my kids aren't doing such and so, and then we have to run out the door to hockey, ballet, piano lessons, etc. I said, well, if they haven't done such and so, why are you running out the door?
Right.
Turn to your kid and say, gee whiz, it would be so sad to miss that activity. We'll be ready to go as soon as you finish your chore, or as soon as you finish the activity, or as soon as you finish putting away your socks. By us standing firm and putting dessert after the meal, so to speak, our kids learn those are the expectations. And no one got hit.
Gary Dierenfeld is my guest, a social worker, and we're talking about the Liberal government planning to repeal a section of the criminal code that protects parents and teachers who use spanking and other reasonable force against children. In other words, you're not going to be allowed to spank your children anymore now. Okay, I want to ask you a couple of things. Whether or not you're surprised that this still is around, that parents can spank their kids, and I heard somebody earlier saying, well, my child ran into traffic and it was the only way to really get him to realize that was very dangerous.
So, if my child is running into traffic, I'm not going to spank him, but I'm certainly going to shout, hey, grab the attention, redirect, and maybe give a stern talking to, because I'm going to be frightened for my kids' well-being. It doesn't mean I hit them any more than I'm going to hit you for the same reason.
Right. Well, and isn't that what it comes down to? We're not allowed to hit other adults. Why are we allowed to hit children?
Right. So give me the circumstances under which I can hit you, Barb. I'm waiting. Give me 6. Right?
No, I know exactly. You're right. Yeah.
It's preposterous. Yet somehow or other, we think it's appropriate for the kids. When we do hit a kid, we're almost always creating shame. You're bad. And shame just causes us bad to feel about ourselves. Also, when we hit, we're using power and control to manage the child. So the child may, in the moment, stop the behavior, but think about it from the kid's perspective. The kid is building resentment, and the kid learns, I may not be able to get back at you directly from my resentment, so it may come out in sneaky ways. Maybe I'm going to lie. Maybe I'm going to steal. So this hitting, well, on the surface it looks like it cured one behavior. It now gave rise to 2 others. So
this is long overdue, in your opinion?
Oh, heavensly. Yeah, absolutely long overdue. The guidance provided by the Supreme Court of Canada was given January 30th, 2004. That's 11 years ago. Mm-hmm. We've gone 11 additional years with parents thinking that it is okay to hit their kids when it's not.
Gary Dierenfeld, as always, thank you so much for this.
Great to be with you, and I would never hit you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Gary Dierenfeld.
All the best to you.
Thank you, and same to you. He's a social worker, parenting columnist for the Hamilton Spectator. The website is yoursocialworker.com. Liberal government